Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is from the corner of your eye in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 21, The In-Between, Part 3. The hold isn't tight, and Sasuke wrenches himself up and away, lunging for the kunai on his bedside drawer and turning to face the other. Kabuto laughs quietly, pushing up his glasses. "I thought you wanted to meet with me," he asks, and Sasuke scowls, his heart pounding. Not like this. He can't believe the other would just come into the district like this, sneak into Sasuke's house so nimbly that Sasuke didn't wake until he wanted him to. That's either Sasuke's traps and survival instincts and alertness are absolutely pathetic, or Kabuto's skills are far greater than they seem. Maybe both. Either way, it means that if that man wanted to, he could simply sneak in and slaughter Sasuke in his sleep, and that will not stand. Kabuto grows serious at that. It was the only way. "You're being watched." Trepidation crawls up his spine. By who? Orochimaru. If that woman, man, whatever was watching him. He feels disgusted. And horrified. And wants to run to his teacher, which is beyond pathetic even if it's technically the smart thing to do. The older genin shakes his head, and then pauses. "Well. Maybe. Not that I know, at least. But you're being watched by Konoha." He needs to cling to his last vestiges of sanity. Because of Orochimaru. If they're concerned Orochimaru is going to do, well, he doesn't actually know what Orochimaru would do, but it would make sense to watch him. Kabuto hesitates. That, and they're concerned you'll defect. Sasuke's brain shatters for just one split second before he tries to scrabble it all together and keep himself and everything and all that just a little intact, please. That's not what he wanted to talk about. I see. Sasuke digests slowly, and then tries to bring his breathing down to a fucking normal level while shoving all of that into a box of, "Deal with when Kabuto isn't here or you'll have a pathetic meltdown in front of him." Not what I wanted to talk to you about. The older genin smiles slightly, and sits down on the edge of Sasuke's bed. Sasuke is washing these as soon as Kabuto leaves. "No one has been in here in years. This is wrong. Ah, yes. What did you want to ask me about?" It's like 2 in the morning and Sasuke is so very tired and kind of on the edge of freaking out, but he inhales, exhales, breathes. "When you previously took the exam, was there a month-long gap in between the second and third exam?" He looks a little surprised. Maybe he expected something different. "No, never. We had a week at most, depending on where it was held, but never anything like a month." Either Kabuto is lying, or the Hokage is lying, and it's kind of fucked up that Sasuke's thinking it's the latter. This being something regular doesn't make sense, and he's sure there are other, older shinobi he can ask to validate that. So the Hokage is lying. Inhale, exhale. "Second, have you ever heard of Uzushio?" Kabuto frowns, brow knitting in confusion. "Uzushio? No, I can't say I have. It doesn't sound familiar, at least." That cinches it, then. That was all I had to ask. For a moment, the silver-haired genin just looks at him. Sasuke wants to know what's going on through his mind. Can he be trusted? But after a few seconds he nods. "Not really what I expected, but I'm glad to help." "Can I know why you wanted to know that?" Sasuke scowls. Kabuto snorts. Right, sorry for asking." He gets up, stepping over to the window and gives Sasuke a smile. "You know you can ask me anything, right?" Sasuke knows this. He knows he may not necessarily trust the answers, but he knows he can ask. He knows Kabuto would be more than willing to answer. He's pretty sure, after this night, that Kabuto has an agenda, but everyone has an agenda. So he nods in response, and Kabuto's smile widens a bit more. "Good. See you later, then, Sasuke," he says, and he vanishes out the window. Everything on his bed goes into the washer. Everything. It's not that Kabuto is particularly disgusting or anything, he's really not, but the last time someone touched his bed and his belongings was so long ago the memory has faded on the edges and it makes every part of Sasuke feel wrong, so he washes them. He doesn't want to try to see if there are any spare sheets or comforters. He has no idea, and the thought of sleeping in one of the other beds in his house makes him want to retch, so he goes for a walk instead. Sasuke needs to think. Fact 1, Kabuto isn't trustworthy. Yes, he's another Konohan genin, but the way that he managed to so easily slip into Sasuke's house, the way he... Sasuke stops. How did Kabuto know about Orochimaru? He didn't express any surprise about it, earlier. He had been surprised that Sasuke had asked about Orochimaru. Was that enough for him to put 2 and 2 together? Had he overheard something, whatever he overheard, that made him convinced Sasuke was being watched in case he defected? Had Naruto or Sakura told him? And how did Kabuto know that fellow Konohans were watching Sasuke in case he defected? How? He's in such a turmoil over whether or not he should trust Kabuto's answers, because they make sense. Reinforce what he already believes. Mesh with the other answers given. But Kabuto is quite possibly working with Orochimaru. That his feet take a long familiar path down to the pond. Someone's sitting on the dock, and Sasuke stares. It's Naruto. His shoes tossed haphazardly behind him, Naruto sits on the edge of the dock, his feet just barely trailing the top of the water. Oh. He considers, for just half a moment, but Naruto glances back at him, and that's when Sasuke caves, walking down to the end of the dock, pulling off his own shoes, and dipping his feet in the water. His legs are longer than Naruto's, and the water reaches his ankles. It's nice. They sit there, quietly, just the two of them, before Naruto speaks. Couldn't sleep. Sasuke shakes his head. No, what about you? He wants to ask. Where's Karin? Shouldn't you be spending the night with her? What's going on? But he doesn't want to ask at the same time. Naruto knows, sometimes, he knows Sasuke so well it makes him feel like he's being hit with Haku's needles all over again, and he stares down at his feet, kicking them gently so he makes ripples in the water. She went back to her hotel room to sleep. We only had my bed and she didn't want to share and dash. Oh, fuck, Naruto's crying. Not crying but on the verge, almost there. She said she'd sleep over tomorrow when we get a mattress just for her, but what if she doesn't actually and she leaves? I've never met another Uzumaki before. There are more Uzumaki. Sasuke's mouth moves before he thinks. His body has a strange way of doing that around Naruto that he doesn't particularly like, and the blonde's gaze snaps up to stare at the Uchiha. Blue eyes wide, disarming, and filled with tears. What? It's now or never, and the boy swallows. There used to be a village. Uzushio. All Uzumakis came from there. It's gone now. His words feel uneducated, unintelligent, inadequate, but Naruto's eyes are so bright. What happened? Sasuke shakes his head. I don't know. Even Kabuto hasn't heard of Uzushio. Maybe Karin knows. That was, apparently, the right thing to say, because Naruto relaxes a little and gives his teammate an honest-to-God smile. I'll ask her tomorrow when she comes over. They're quiet for a moment more, and then Sasuke speaks. Naruto, did you tell Kabuto about Orochimaru? Naruto blinks once, twice, 3 times at the random question, before nodding. Yeah. I mean, not everything, but I did tell him we fought Orochimaru and about Oboro and stuff. Oboro is still raw, and both boys hunch in a little and grit their teeth, but that makes sense at least. Sort of. He still doesn't know where Kabuto got the information about Konohan ninjas watching him, if he was telling the truth after all. Why? Sasuke shrugs. He mentioned him. Oh. It's late. It's so late that it has become early, the moon slipping across the sky, and Sasuke wishes he could go back to bed. He's tired, almost drooping, and... Hey, Sasuke, want to spar? It's Sasuke's turn to blink once, twice, 3 times at his teammate. He's tired. He's exhausted. But... He smiles, very slightly. You're on, idiot. I'm going to beat you. Sasuke does, in fact, beat him. Mostly. They don't really hit much of an ending point, just sparring until Naruto just about keels over and decides to head back to his apartment to sleep, but given that Naruto was the one to call it quits and Sasuke would never lose to that idiot, it's very clear he's won. Good. It put him back in order, a little bit. Uzushio is still a looming mystery. Maybe the Hokage isn't all that he seems. Kabuto might be an ally, or he might be a foe, or maybe he's neither but can be useful. Sasuke's not sure. He's leaning towards the latter too. He still doesn't know what happened to the Sound Genin, nor why Orochimaru is interested in him. But right now, none of that is important. I hope we get to fight in the final exam, Naruto had said before he left, and it rings true. Sasuke hopes the same. Oh, yes, he wants to try himself against difficult people. Gaara, if he gets to fight him, will be very interesting. Even his already planned fight against Hinata would be intriguing. She fought well in the preliminaries. But there's something about fighting Naruto that's different. Naruto is his rival, is his teammate. He wants to fight him, wants to struggle against him and prevail, and they can both be named Chunin. Maybe Sakura, too. Sasuke yawns, covering his mouth with one hand, and then sticks both his hands in his pockets, ambling down the street. The sun had risen. It was time to find Kakashi, and figure out how to win this thing. Chapter 22, Karin Interlude. She doesn't say goodbye to her team. There's no real point, she thinks, none of them ever cared about her, and she never cared about any of them. All she was on this mission, for this exam, was a tool. She was there to heal her teammates. No one cared about her advancing. Why would they? She wasn't even properly trained as a genin. Karin packs up every single one of her items, neat and tidy in her bags, and leaves the hotel. There's nothing at home she could possibly want, the few material items that are important to her absolutely came with, and to be honest, there's nothing worth going home. It's early, maybe too early to wake Naruto, so instead Karin finds herself going to the one other location that she knows here in Konoha, Ichiraku. The stall seems open, the warm smell of ramen coming from inside, so she steps in, dropping her bags by one of the stools and sitting down. After a moment, the young woman, Ayame, Naruto had introduced her as, comes out with a smile. I thought I heard someone come in. Just you, Karin. She ducks her head, cheeks turning a little red. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Naruto's still asleep. Ayame, thankfully, doesn't ask any questions. He likes to sleep in. Is there anything I can get you? Karin shrugs. Thinking seems hard this morning. Everything is kind of overwhelming. Whatever smells really good right now. She laughs. Coming right up. Even though it smells delicious, though, Karin only finds herself toying with her ramen when she gets it, unable to really stomach anything. She has no idea how she's going to do this. How she can make Naruto like her. She had been too scared last night, too overwhelmed, all of this was just so much. How was she even going to? Ayame leans on the counter, and Karin jerks up, startled. The older girl only smiles. Hey, you know. Naruto's a pretty simple person. He cares a lot, but he hasn't really had anyone. He'll love you for who you are, whoever that is. Whoever that is. And in truth, isn't that the real dilemma? Karin has no idea who she is. She's an Uzumaki, and that's why Naruto wants her, why he wants to keep her, and she's so fiercely glad she's an Uzumaki right now, that blood runs through her veins. She's now a Konohan, and that. She doesn't know what that means. Karin doesn't need to heal anymore. Maybe she doesn't even have to go on missions. Maybe she can just be a gardener or a librarian or do anything else but see more people hurt. Karin stares at the bowl in front of her and it's. The broth is moving and no, the broth isn't moving, Karin is just crying and Ayame is on the other side of the counter, suddenly, hugging her tight, and it feels like Mama is here and alive all over again, and she buries her face in Ayame's stomach and balls. She's not sure how long she cries. She's not sure how long she weeps and shakes and feels like she's going to retch, but she doesn't retch, she just falls to pieces while Ayame rubs her back and makes shushing noises and holds her until she's calm. Calm-ish, at least. It's okay to be scared, Karin, Ayam says, holding her tight. Moving to a whole new village, that's big, isn't it? It is. But it also isn't. She'd expect moving to a whole new village to be exactly the same, full of hurts and biting and never-ending days and exhaustion, and this is. This is going to be none of this. I don't know if I want to be a ninja, Karen confesses. I don't dash. She can't summarize, can't put into words all she's seen, all she's experienced, all the awful things that make her want to run so very far from this profession, and so she stops there, but Ayam doesn't ask anything more. She gently rubs her back and rocks her, just a little, as Karen's hands curl into Ayam's shirt. Well, if you want to change, I think now would be the best time for it. Karen sniffles, and manages to pull back, wiping at her eyes with one hand and the other keeping a tight hold in the other girl's top. You think that's okay? Definitely, Ayam says, and she smiles. I think that's Dash. Karen. It's a familiar voice, and Karen's gaze jerks over to the stall entrance, where Naruto is standing, wide-eyed. Karen, what's wrong? He's there, by her side in an instant. As if she hadn't left abruptly last night, ruder than she had meant. He didn't know that she was overwhelmed, that it was too much, she had just left him, when she knew he was alone, and yet. Here he was, standing right by her side, looking over her with concern as if trying to find a spot where someone hurt her. She lets go of Ayam and flings herself into his arms. He staggers slightly, but they stay upright, and he wraps his arms around her in turn. Naruto is warm. His hug is different than any she's had before, he just holds her tight and close and snugly as though he's scared she'll disappear if he doesn't keep her there. He's small, she realizes, and she could put her chin on his head. Naruto, she says, and she smiles just a little. Do you have time today, to go shopping? He doesn't let go, though his voice is very clearly confused. Shopping? I need to buy a bed. Naruto squeezes her, tight. Why yeah, I do. They don't end up getting another bed. Naruto's apartment isn't very big, and there's not really room, and while Naruto happily produces a very fat frog full of money, Karen is kind of loath to deplete it, especially since she's not going to be doing a mission anytime soon, if ever, and neither will Naruto since he's training for the exams. They compromise by getting another mattress that stays on the floor, and they take turns, switching beds every other night. Karen cleans the whole apartment from top to bottom while Naruto is at training. She's very positive this place has never, ever seen a thorough cleaning. She dusts, she wipes everything down, she tosses out so many things, she even vacuums. Sakura was more than happy to lend her parents to them once she learned what Karen was up to. Everything is spick and span and clean. She didn't get rid of all the homey touches, of course. All of Naruto's posters are carefully in place, mostly focused around ramen and training, and you can do it. But it's still empty. Bare. She counts out her money carefully, and goes to the store. When Naruto returns home that day, tired and grumbling about a perverted old man, he stops, abruptly, when he hits the kitchen. Because there, on the wall, is a carefully framed picture of Karen and Mama. He stares at it. And then he stares at Karen, waiting flush-faced for his reaction. Is that? She nods. That's me and Mama. It was taken not long before Mama died. Her Mama had wanted a picture, a family one to put in a frame and hang on the wall, but by the time they got it properly developed, Mama was gone. A small Karen sits on her mother's lap, beaming brightly at the camera, while Mama looks tired. Her smile is just as genuine, both of her arms wrapped around her daughter. Naruto stares at it again. She has red hair, like you. Yeah. Naruto tugs on his blonde strands, then, and frowns. I don't. Oh. Karen frowns as well. You probably get it from your mama, she suggests. She must have been blonde. 'Cause if his papa was an Uzumaki. But maybe Naruto was like her and hadn't ever had a papa, so his name came from his mama? Her cousin, seems to have accepted her explanation though, and nods, refocusing his stare to the picture again. Karen waits a moment, shifting her weight awkwardly, and speaks up. Naruto, do you have any pictures you want to put up on the wall, too? I got another picture frame. Actually Shihaja 10-3 total. Naruto lights up. Yeah, hang on. He scrambles for his dresser, nearly tripping over himself as he does, and bangs it open to fish out a picture he trots over with, holding very carefully, to proudly present it to her. It's his team. There's his teacher, Kakashi-sensei, and Naruto scowling at the camera, and that kind of frightening Sasuke also scowling at the camera, and then the very nice Sakura smiling in between them. It's very cute. She tells him so. Hee, thanks. He flushes, just a little. We can hang this one on the wall with yours. Very cautiously, she says it. Both of our families. He nods. Yeah. But if this is gonna be families, we need more pictures. It's about a week later that he very carefully hangs one of him and Iruka-sensei, who Karen had met and very much liked. A nice man. No wonder he's family. Karen watches him do so, blowing on her ramen. Ayame and Toki have been letting her help out at Ichiraku, and it's really fun. She sees a lot of the other Konoha genin that way, and they're all very nice. She likes them a lot. She likes everything here a lot. No one expects her to heal. She helps out at Ichiraku and reads books at the library, spends some time with Team 10 since they're the ones with the most free time right now, and Sakura once even invited her over for a girls' day and they did their nails and had a little spa and it was really fun. I needed that, Sakura had said, tired and exhausted and very clearly not sleeping as much as she should. Karen had nodded, and smiled. Yeah. This was nice. The one thing that's marring everything is the lack of word from the Hokage. She hasn't heard a single thing. Not a drop. Not a whisper. She's so very worried that all of a sudden the Hokage will tell her that actually, you have to leave and she'll never ever get to see any of these great people ever again. Actually. There's one more thing marring everything that is otherwise the happiest Karen has ever been in her entire life, even before Mama died. Naruto, she says, and it takes all of her strength to say it. Naruto, I can sense chakra. He turns to look at her, quizzical but happy. That's really cool. Can you see how much chakra I've got? Do I got a lot? She nods, and he puffs up. You gotta see if I've got more than Sasuke. I bet that bastard dash. Naruto, she says again, and he stops. She's serious now. Your chakra is warm. And bright. But you've also got some chakra that makes me feel. She can't finish, but it doesn't seem like she needs to. Naruto pales, and one hand reaches up to clutch at his stomach. It feels bad, he says in a whisper, and Karen doesn't even need to nod. His eyes skitter away, and he looks at the pictures, of him and his team and him and Iruka-sensei and her and Mama and something. Something in him gets just a little stronger because he straightens up and looks her in the eye again. That's because there's a demon sealed inside me. Karen doesn't breathe. A demon. And he tells her everything. Why do you want a picture here? Naruto scowls at her. I told you, it's important. They sit, crammed together on a small wooden swing outside of the academy where Naruto once took ninja classes. Iruka-sensei smiles at them both, looking rather bare without his headband, since Karen hadn't gotten a new one from Konoha, and might not ever not that she told him that, Iruka-sensei lent her his. They match. The two of them, crammed side by side on this swing, Konohan headbands on their forehead and an arm swung around each other, half for balance and half because they wouldn't fit otherwise. Iruka-sensei ducks behind the camera. 1, 2, 3, smile. She's warm. She's smashed up against her cousin's side, taking a picture to go on their wall of family photographs, having a kind man who could care less about her healing ability take said picture. Afterwards, when Naruto heads off for training, she's going to go meet up with Ino and Chuji at Chuji's family's restaurant, and then that evening, she and Naruto are going to meet at Ichiraku to talk to Toki and Ayame. Tomorrow, she and Shikamaru have a shogi match, which he will inevitably win, and then Sakura had asked for her help at trying out a new technique for the finals. She'll return home to sleep on the mattress on the floor of a once again messy apartment, which can never stay clean no matter how hard she tries, and Karen smiles. Chapter 23, Finals, Part 1. Sasuke's the first one there. He's not surprised. Naruto is almost always late, and Sakura is a master of getting somewhere precisely on time, and Sasuke is early. That's fine by him. He stands off to the side of the entrance a bit, not wanting to attract too much attention, and quietly munches on a steamed bun for breakfast. Having too much in his stomach is a very bad idea, given upcoming events, but having absolutely nothing is worse, so this is a nice, light, compromise. Oi, Sasuke. The Uchiha turns, and Naruto is there, early, for once. Karen is by his side, and Sasuke suspects she's the reason for the difference. Good morning, she greets him quietly as the two of them approach, giving him a small smile, which he answers with a nod. She's much better, since the first time they met her. Still quiet, but less timid, she's not a second Hinata, anymore. He wonders how much of her quietness can be chalked up to his presence, since they don't know each other that well yet, but it doesn't really matter. All of a sudden, Naruto's hands are in his face, way too close, and Sasuke nearly goes cross-eyed. Sasuke, look. He tries. He really does, but he ends up taking a step back to see. Karen painted my nails this morning. His stubby nails are orange with blue spirals in them, the same kind that Naruto wears on his back and Konoha Shinobi wear on their jackets, and it does actually look good. For all that Sasuke knows about nails, anyway. His bro. He stops. Something must show on his face, though he tries very hard to hide it, because Naruto pulls his hands back and Karen speaks up and it's a distraction. I like painting nails, she says, glancing at her cousin and then refocusing on Sasuke. I could do yours, if you want. Sasuke tries very hard to not let his face show his true feelings, but some of his no thank you must show because Naruto laughs. Sasuke's too cool to get his nails painted, he teases, and grins. Oh. Are we talking about how great Sasuke is? For one terrifying moment, Sasuke thinks that his teammate has reverted to her previous self over the past few days, but when he looks over, the approaching Sakura's eyes dance with mirth. Karen is not the only one changed, over the past month, though Sakura's change is more physical. Her hair is neatly trimmed, and instead of her previous red dress, she wears black pants that go halfway down her calves, a mesh tank, and a short-sleeved red crop top. Her dress had been unsalvageable from the exam, so it was time for a new look, she decided. The Uchiha rolls his eyes at her teasing, huffing, and looking away, but she just laughs. All right, she says, in a surprisingly cheery mood despite who she's going to face later that day. Let's go. She pumps her fist. Naruto pumps his fist. Karen mimics them after an awkward half-second. Sasuke starts walking in. I won't train you. Out of everything Kakashi could have said, he wouldn't have predicted that answer. Sasuke starts, and then glares fiercely. Why not? I have a month, you're my teacher, I need to dash. Kakashi cuts him off before he can finish. I'm training Sakura this month. Sasuke stares. He looks his teacher up and down, as if he'll admit it's a joke and his usual dumb teasing, but Kakashi doesn't. Instead, the man reaches out to ruffle Sasuke's hair. Ma, Sasuke, what happens if you lose to Hinata? He glares. I won't. His teacher's eye crinkles into a smile. But if you did? You'd be fine. She's a nice girl. And Niji's not so nice of a boy, but if Naruto loses, he'll be fine. But Sakura. Sasuke thinks of the strange, crazed redhead that fought Shikamaru, how he kept going even once the Nara forfeited. How Chuji had to step in and stop him, the way he trembled with sheer excitement. If Sakura loses, she dies. It's a sobering thought. Kakashi pulls back his hand, softening. Don't worry, I've already found a teacher for you. One that will be perfect for this exam. He perks up. That's promising. Who? His teacher reaches out to tweak his nose, and Sasuke flushes and yanks back, half protectively covering his face. Someone you already know. Good luck. Sakura tells him, giving the boy a grin as she goes to sit by Ino. Good luck, Karen quietly echoes, trailing behind to sit next to Shikamaru. Naruto lingers, just a moment, and he and Sasuke look at each other. Sasuke is the one who breaks the silence. "I want to fight you, Naruto," he says. The blonde stares at him for a moment, wide-eyed, and then grins. "Then we better make it to the finals." He holds out a fist, and after a second, Sasuke gently bumps his teammate's fist with his own. Hinata is getting a pep talk from her team, it seems like, but when he glances over, as Naruto starts to walk away, Kiba gives her one last hug and it's just the two of them. She looks nervous, definitely nervous, but ready. Sasuke gives her a nod, taking a few steps back. Hinata stiffens up, before falling into a fighting stance. All the best to you, Sasuke," she says. He falls into his own ready position, a kunai curled loosely in his right hand. "Begin," the announcer says, and they move. "What is the best way to fight a Hyuga?" "Don't get hit," Yamato had advised. "You have more stamina than she does. Wear her out, keep moving, and take her down when she gets tired." It's easier said than done. Hinata is fast, very fast, and extremely determined to win this. Sasuke is also fast, but he's still on the defensive, still ducking and weaving and doing his absolute best to stay out of range of her fists. He throws a few kunai that she's forced to dodge, and that gives him a bit of a head start. He feels like Karen at the preliminaries, almost, but this isn't feudal running and he's absolutely going to win. Hinata stops, and Sasuke stops, too, staring at her warily. She's breathing hard, chest heaving, and so is he. They stare at each other, and there's so much emotion in Hinata that the Uchiha cannot even begin to comprehend. "Why do you keep fighting?" he asks. "You know that you're going to lose." It's obvious, to him. It's probably obvious to her, too. She's more tired than him, and he's just a beat too fast, and even if neither has struck a blow on the other, in a battle of stamina, Sasuke will win. She flinches a little, at the question, but steels herself. I need to prove my strength. To me, and to someone. It's strange, to look at someone and see a strangely distorted mirror image of yourself. Because Hinata is everything that Sasuke would have been if his family hadn't died. He can see it, now. She's the clan heir, but may not be for long. He heard the rumors when the clan was still around, the whispers of her unsuitability because of course the Uchihas talked about that, how could they not? She's under that pressure of never being able to match up to her sibling, of never being good enough, of never being strong enough. Sasuke has that now, too, but without a family to strive forward for. The Uchiha nods at her. It's an understanding, and she can see it, too. And here, today? He knows that whoever she cannot live up to must be watching. "When you become the head of your clan," he says, and he says it loud and clear. This is not just for her ears. This is an alliance, and this is a big fuck you to him and to all the forces trying to manipulate him. She's wide-eyed, but the Uchiha clan will extend its hand in partnership. He'd rather ally the clan with those who aren't trying to screw him over. And then he smirks, and this part is for her ears only. But no hard feelings, here. I've got someone to prove my strength to, too. He lunges forward, and the battle begins anew. Sasuke wins, in the end. It's an outcome that both of them probably expected. He pins her to the ground, holds a kunai to her neck, and waits until he is declared the winner. But saying that Hinata did not fight hard, was not a worthy opponent, would be an absolute lie. His right arm hangs useless by his side, his tenketsu points blocked and bruises dotting it, and he breathes heavily, faintly. If he had to fight again, directly afterwards, he would lose. There are no ifs ands or buts about it. Hinata looks absolutely exhausted, but her only wounds are some singes from the fireball she could not quite dodge, and a small cut on her neck from where Sasuke had held the kunai that made her surrender, but his shaking, exhausted left hand had not been able to hold it still. She is the one that helps him up, in the end, once he rolls off of her, taking his left hand in her own and hauling him to his feet. She smiles, just a little. "That was a good fight," she says. He glances down to where she's still holding his hand, and she turns red, jerking back like she was burned, and Sasuke snorts, shaking his head. Yes, he says, and that's that. No one got hurt, not seriously so, and there were no grudges involved in this match. No high tense emotions between two people who need to beat each other to a pulp to get it all out, so they're quickly surrounded by the 7 other rookies, and Karen, when they head back up. Kiba hauls Hinata in a big hug, yanking her off her feet and completely uncaring about her bright red face. Naruto near about tackles Sasuke from behind, arm hanging around the Uchiha's neck, and Sakura warmly congratulates Sasuke and Shino clears his throat. Hinata, he says. I would like to continue what Sasuke stated earlier. When you become the head of the Hyuga clan, you will have the backing of the Aburame clan. Kiba blinks, once, twice, and then grins. Yeah, same here. Inuzuka's got your back. Shikamaru sighs. Troublesome, you have the Naras, too. Ino pledges the same. So does Chuji. Sakura has nothing to pledge, so she doesn't, just smiles at Hinata, but the Hyuga, the slightly older Hyuga from the non-rookie Genin team, is glaring. It's an intense glare that Sasuke hasn't seen the likes of since his clan was around, a skill that was not mastered easily, and he nudges Naruto. Naruto follows his gaze, and something in his face shifts a little, and he turns back to Hinata. Hinata, he says seriously, and Sasuke swallows down the pang in his throat as her cheeks turn redder under the blonde's gaze. You've got the Uzumakis too, Yano? Me and Karen gotcha, too. Karen probably has the least amount of clue as to what's going on out of everyone here. Someone needs to catch her up on Konoha politics, ASAP, but she nods, once, twice. She can go with the flow quite admirably. Yes. We'll support you. Sasuke's win has become a lot more about Hinata, from the encouragement of all the rookies as her face gets redder and redder, the glare of the other Hyuga, everything, but that's alright. This wasn't the fight that really mattered to him, anyway. He has more to look forward to. He learns into Naruto's warmth, and awaits the next match. Chapter 24, Finals, Part 2. They settle down into their seats. Team 10 sits next to them, Shikamaru next to Chuji next to Ino next to Sakura, then Karen, Naruto, and Sasuke. Team Guy is on the far side of 10, Rock rather loudly encouraging Tenten on, and, you can do it, while Hinata, Kiba, and Shino talk much quieter just a few feet down from Sasuke. He thinks they'll use the other teams as a barrier, to keep Hyuga as far from Hinata as possible. Why? Why is that necessary? What is going on underneath that he knows nothing about? Kabuto sits next to him, though, before Team 8 can, and Sasuke stiffens. That was a very good match. Congratulations, Sasuke, the older Genin says, and Sasuke glances his way, teeth clenched together so hard he's certain he's going to break his own jaw. A Hyuga Uchiha alliance, though. I don't think that's ever happened. Light flickers off his glasses as he smiles, expression unreadable. Do you think they'd approve? It's like a punch to the gut. Sasuke wants to snap, to snarl, to wrestle Kabuto to the ground and break his stupid glasses and break his stupid face because how dare he bring them up like this and how dare he be right and. He claps a hand over the back of his neck and tries to breathe. Hey, Kabuto NII. Naruto leans around Sasuke, and the boy can't tell if his teammate is just that oblivious or if he's doing it on purpose. With Naruto, it could be either. You came to watch? I'm gonna win, yeah no. Kabuto turns that same unreadable smile onto Naruto. Hyuga Neji is a genius, Naruto, he chides gently. Top of his class, just like Sasuke. You'll have to try very hard to beat him. Naruto puffs up, he always likes a challenge. I've got a plan. Don't worry, I'm gonna kick his ass and then I'm gonna kick more ass till it's me and Sasuke and then I'm gonna kick Sasuke's ass. He's amused. Seems like you've got it all worked out. You two in the finals, huh? The blonde nods fiercely. Yeah. The two of us. He turns, just a little bit. Right, Sasuke. His nails cut into the skin of his neck so hard he thinks he might be bleeding, but he swallows, nods, tries to force himself to relax. Yes, he says, and that's enough for Naruto, who is more than happy to chat with Kabuto. Still, maybe it's his imagination, maybe it's just wishful thinking, but he feels like Naruto scoots a little closer, as if that bulk of Naruto's warmth pressed up against his shoulder is a little more tangible, and he relaxes, just a fraction. "Hey, Sasuke." The Uchiha opens his eyes, when had he closed them? To look over at his teammate. "Does your arm hurt?" He glances down at where his left arm is mottled with bruises from Hinata hitting his Tenketsu points, and shrugs. Yes, it hurts, but he's more concerned about the whole not being able to use it in the match thing. "Do you want me to heal it for you?" Kabuto offers, and Sasuke turns to look at him sharply. The older genin smiles, oh so softly. "And, your neck, it seems like it's bothering you." Sasuke still has his hand over his neck, he realizes, still has his hand covering that seal, and it's like now that he's thinking about it, it burns just a bit more, like a fireball is singing his skin, and Yamato-sensei showed him some breathing exercises, but he can't do this with Kabuto right here, he cannot deal. Naruto's reaching for him. "Sasuke, hey dash." He gets up and leaves. Naruto is only a few steps behind him, calling out his name, and Sasuke ignores him, completely ignores him until he can turn down an empty hall, back hitting the wall, and then slide down it to slump on the floor. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. His teammate kneels in front of him, hands hovering over Sasuke's shoulders, unsure what to do. Hey, Sasuke," he says, and the Uchiha manages to look up, manages to meet Naruto's concerned eyes. "What's wrong?" Sasuke shakes his head. He doesn't have words, doesn't have anything he can say, and Naruto glances back at where they came from before his hands form a seal, and poof, there's a shadow clone next to him. "Tell Sakura what's going on," he tells the clone, who casts its own worried glance at Sasuke before running off, and then Naruto is sitting next to Sasuke, leaning back against the wall, shoulder to shoulder. He struggles. Breathing in, breathing out, trying not to think of Kabuto and his words, because when he gets angry it's like he instinctively draws on that. Instinctively draws upon that tainted power sealed away, and it's so hard to not go for it. But Naruto's warm presence is next to him, is grounding him, and slowly, his breathing calms. Evens out. His neck no longer pains him, and he draws his hand away and stares at it, not really seeing it but still looking anyway. "Hey," says his teammate, and Sasuke drags his gaze away from his hand to stare at Naruto. "What happened?" "The seal." He weighs his answer for a moment. "I don't trust Kabuto," he says. Naruto blinks at that, and then furrows his brow. "An unexpected answer." "Why not?" "He broke into my house over break." "He what?" Sasuke has to snort, pulling his gaze away from Naruto's alarmed eyes and leaning back against the wall, looking up at the ceiling. "Yes. He wanted to talk to me. I think it clicked just now. Because there's no way the comment wasn't a subtle dig at the seal on his neck. I think he's working for Orochimaru." Naruto stares at him, alarmed and worried and upset all at once. "Kabuto nii is." He shakes away whatever thought is plaguing him. "We need to tell Kakashi-sensei." He shakes his head. "We don't have enough time. Your match is next." The blonde deflates a little. Well, we can tell him after I kick that bastard's ass, then we can find him." Sasuke snorts. "Do you really think one match will be enough time to find Kakashi? Because Sakura is right after." Naruto slumps against the wall beside him, letting out a groan. "Ugh. You've got stupid logic. We'll tell him after the finals, right?" "Yeah." They sit there for a moment, just the two of them in silence, shoulder against shoulder, before Naruto gets up. "My shadow clone popped, match is almost over." Even with the subject they were discussing, the blonde can't help but grin, beaming excitedly at Sasuke as the other shoves himself to his feet. "I'm gonna kick his ass. Wait till you've seen the cool jutsu I've learned." "Heh." Sasuke shakes his head, falling in behind Naruto as they start to head back. "Don't use all your tricks on Hyuga, or you'll never be able to beat me." "Ack, bastard, you'll see about that." Sasuke is relieved to see there's been a slight shift in seating arrangements, when he gets back. Sakura is firmly engaging Kabuto, Having taken Sasuke's seat, they're talking about medical jutsu, it seems, and Karen, having moved over to Naruto's spot, is listening in and offering the occasional comment. Ino waves the two of them down as soon as they come down the stairs, and this is the first time in his life that Sasuke has ever been relieved to see the Yamanaka. He sits next to her, Naruto on his other side, all the better to keep more people in between him and Kabuto, and Ino leans in, as does the rest of Team 10. Sakura says we need to keep Kabuto away from you, she says, and she's concerned. Choji looks concerned. Even Shikamaru looks concerned. What's going on? The idea of explaining everything about Orochimaru and the seal and sound, especially when his own team still doesn't know all the details, isn't even an idea. He's a creep, Sasuke murmurs. Team 10, Ino Shikacho, he can't forget that, can't forget what kind of team they are, looks downright alarmed. Like that? Choji asks quietly, kind of horrified and shooting a glance over to Kabuto. Naruto is puzzled. Like what? Sasuke knows what they're asking, though. His hand reaches up, clasps over the seal on his neck, and he thinks of Orochimaru's touch and Kabuto in his bedroom, and he's not even sure if he's lying when he says, yes, like that. Ino's face hardens into a glare that she shoots to a seemingly oblivious Kabuto, before glancing back at the rest of her team. They communicate in a way without words, complete with wiggling eyebrows and mock faces of disgust, before she turns back to him. You guys stay and watch the match. We'll go find one of our teachers. It was something Sasuke hadn't even considered. Asking other people. Sakura reached out, automatically. He knows her relationship with Ino is better, now, knows that, things are different, but he hadn't thought about asking Team 10. Hadn't thought about asking Team 8, even with their different, shared history. Now, he could have told Team 8 more of the truth, and yet, here is Team 10, sneaking off and willing to track a teacher down for him. Okay, Sasuke says. Team 10 waits a few minutes for Tenten to win her match against Shino. He wishes he would have paid more attention, gotten a better look at their strategies and tactics and jutsus, seen how they changed from the preliminaries, but this was too distracting. Too much. It's Naruto vs the Hyuga, now, and the blonde stands up. Karen gives him a smile and Sakura reaches up to slap him on the back so hard he has to take a few steps forward to recover his balance. Knock him dead, Naruto, she says, and she grins. Hinata doesn't quite give Naruto a smile, but be careful, she says, and he beams at her. Even Kabuto has something to say. Good luck, Naruto, he says, and Naruto is actually a pretty damn good actor, wow, because he grins at Kabuto, too. Thanks, Kabuto and he says, even as Ino comes up behind him and swings an arm around Naruto's shoulder. We'll take you there, she says, and Naruto looks at her, wide-eyed, even as Choji gets up and Shikamaru pushes himself to his feet with a tired sigh. You will. Ino scoffs. I've got some tips for you, she says, as they march right on by Rock and the Hyuga. That boy made fun of me in the middle of the last exam. She shoots him a glare and he stares back at her, impassive, before they keep going. Can you believe it? So I've got some great ways for you to. Their voices fade as they head up the stairs, ironically enough, to then head down the ones in the back, Shikamaru and Choji exchanging exasperated, faked, looks behind them. Sasuke relaxes, just a little bit. Karen reaches over to touch him, just gently poke his shoulder, and she looks at him and he can see the resemblance to Naruto, just a bit. Okay? She mouths at him, concerned, and he nods. He's fine. Hyuga leaves, following in the steps of Team 10 and Naruto, with Rock dogging his heels and cheering and near jumping around him enthusiastically, and Sasuke glances their way, wondering for a split second what kind of relationship they have, but shelving it because he honestly doesn't care, before he looks over at Sakura and Kabuto. Sakura looks a little wistful, gazing after them, and Sasuke wonders who she's thinking of. Or what, rather, he supposes it may not be a person. He looks, just a little past her. The glint of his glasses hides his eyes, but Sasuke swears that Kabuto is wearing a smile. Chapter 25, Finals, Part 3, Team 10/Niji Interlude. AHH, Ino, there's something ya gotta know, Naruto says as they head down the stairs, and Ino releases him, pulling her arm away because even if she's acting, she doesn't really want her hands all over him. Sasuke thinks Kabuto is working for Orochimaru. What? Says Ino. What? Says Shikamaru. Oh my god, says Chuji. Naruto is serious, though, very much not joking, and he nods at them. Yeah. I gotta fight and then Sakura's gotta fight and then Sasuke's gotta fight again, so we don't got time to go get somebody, but yeah gotta tell someone. Tell Kakashi-sensei. Okay, Ino says. For about a minute after Naruto heads to go fight, and probably lose to Hyuga, Ino stares after him, before letting out a groan and burying her face in her hands. Is that entire team insane, guys? Chuji is wonderful and always up to bat. Their sensei is pretty weird. Who just chills with that? He's working for an evil baby murdering Sunin and they're just, oh yeah haha he's bad, and dash. Shikamaru has no idea where she learned the whole baby murdering thing, but Ino always knows more than she should about things like that, so he just shakes his head, rolls his eyes, and puts a hand on her shoulder. Talk later, he says. We can talk about how crazy they all are later. Right now, we gotta find a teacher before that freaky Mednin snaps and kills everyone. Or worse, Chuji shudders, before they all exchange a look. Their year mates may be more oblivious to the shoddier aspects of ninja life, well, except for Sasuke, but no one talks about that, but Team 10 knows what was up. With one parent in TNI, one parent the Jounin commander, and one parent the head of the military police, they have their finger on the pulse of that side of Konoha. Which is, both good and bad. Come on. Ino commands, ever the leader, hands on her hips. Let's go. We'll find one of the teachers and get this taken care of, and maybe we'll be back in time to watch Sakura fight. Chuji mouths gay behind her back. Shikamaru tries very, very hard not to snort. Now's not the time. What Team 10 isn't, though, is a tracking team. We should have grabbed Dog Boy, Ino groans as she looks over yet another crowd of people, desperately hoping to spot one of their teachers, or at least someone she trusts. One of their parents, maybe. Shikamaru rolls his eyes. He has a name. Ino huffs. Just because you boys were class-skipping buddies doesn't mean me and Dog Boy are besties, Shika. Rookies need to stick together, Ino, Chuji points out, digging in his pocket for a bag of gummies. He offers the bag to Shikamaru, he takes one. He offers it to Ino, she glares at him. And then also takes one. They should maybe be putting on a more serious air, but Team 10 is the kind of team to go to the grave bickering with each other. It's just in their nature. No matter how serious the situation is, this will always be them. Okay, says Ino, half a gummy worm hanging out of her mouth. Okay. Kurane-sensei is probably with Asuma-sensei, so if we find one, we find the other. Shikamaru frowns. I still dispute the validity of your Kurane and Asuma are dating theory. She turns her glare on him. You're going to owe me big time on their wedding day. I'm telling you, Asuma and that Proctor are together dash. Well, since we only need to find one, it doesn't matter if they're together or not, right? Chuji puts in, swallowing a worm and offering the bag up once more as a further peace offering. We trust Kurane-sensei, right? Right, sighs Ino. Troublesome, says Shikamaru. They both take a gummy worm. Don't go whining about things like destiny and stuff and how it can't be changed. Because unlike me, you're not a failure. Lady Hinata enters the room right as Lord Hayashi is leaving. She doesn't look up at him. She walks right by him, right by her father in a showing of steel that Niji cannot ever remember seeing in her, and sits right next to Niji. He says nothing. The door very quietly closes behind Lord Hayashi, after a moment, and Niji silently offers up the scroll of his father's words to his cousin. She takes it. She reads it. After a moment, she speaks up. He never told you. Niji shakes his head. Did you know? No. Silence falls upon them once more, and Niji struggles with his words, Struggles with what he even wants to begin to say to her, say to his cousin that holds his fate in his hands and whom has become the symbol of everything he struggles against, even if she has, personally, never done anything to him. Lady Hinata speaks before he can. I don't like him, she whispers, very quietly, hands curling into fists on her legs. Father. I don't. Niji stares at her for a moment. He hadn't expected that. I don't, either, he tells her. Even if father had made that choice, even if Hayashi had not intentionally condemned his own twin, even if it had been what his father wanted to do, there was still. I don't like you. She flinches, a little, but she doesn't get up. She stays. What? What are you going to do, now? Are you? His entire ideology, his entire belief system, everything that he thought was true, has been turned on its head. He had spoken openly of everything he thought in front of everyone, in front of Lady Hinata, and he had been proven so thoroughly wrong that, I'm going to get stronger. I do, too, she says, and she looks up and meets his eyes. One Hyaga to the other. Main house to branch house, sitting next to each other, sharing goals and plans for the future. Niji and He cannot breathe. I want to. I don't want to be father. She reaches for his forehead, and he flinches back, and her hand hangs in the air between the two of them, not moving. I don't want any more branch house, or seals, or father, he thinks, and it's the first coherent thought he's had since losing to that orange moron. I want to choose my own path. Lady Hinata, Niji says, and he leans forward until his forehead is resting against Hinata's shoulder. He echoes the other genin from earlier, takes a small step in their direction. You have my backing. She wraps her arms around him and he very softly begins to cry. Naruto has, somehow, beat Niji, and Team 10 is no closer to finding one of their teachers than they were at the beginning of the fight. There's just so many people, so many scattered everywhere, and it's not like there's some designated section just for teachers whose students are competing or something. And even then, it's not like Asuma-sensei would be there. Yes, he would, cause he and Kurane are dating. Yes, he would, cause he's with the proctor. Choji wonders whether Sasuke or Sakura is the same one of Team 7, he's really not sure, and resolves to both find out and befriend whichever one it is really soon, because he needs that sanity. Also, to befriend Team 8 in general, because they're the sanest all around even if Kiba talks to animals. We could send up a flare or something, Choji offers up, discarding the second bag of candy that Team 10 has worked through and pulling out a pack of crackers. Automatically, both of his teammates take one. Shikamaru looks awfully tempted by the idea, crumbs dotting his lips, but shakes his head. We don't want to start a mass panic or anything, especially since the next match is started. And we don't want to tip off the enemy that we know what's going on. Ino takes a second cracker. These two always need calories when they're plotting, which is yet another reason Choji always has snacks on him. Good old brain food. Do we want to see if we can find an umbu or something? There's probably at least one here. Oh. The Akimika's eyes light up. Let's head towards the Hokage, he says, and the other two just stare at him. We know where he is, and if we make it all the way there without finding anyone, we can tell his bodyguard and he can decide what to do. This really is important, so I don't think they'll get annoyed or anything. Shikamaru considers it. Ino considers it. They both nod. Sounds fine by me, Shikamaru says, taking the rest of the packet and quietly absconding, beginning to lead the way towards the Hokage's box. Ino flashes Choji a smile. Nice one. They don't get more than a few minutes of walking, not running, because that would panic people towards the box and bickering, with Ino trying to crane her head to see what's going down with Lee and the Sand Genin, before they're stopped. What are you three up to? Asks a very familiar face, and their shoulders slump with relief as they turn. It's Asuma-sensei, in the flesh, cigarette in his mouth and confused smile on his face as he surveys them. Why aren't you sitting and watching the matches? I could say the same to you. Ino automatically retorts, forgetting that actually she has a perfectly acceptable reason to be walking about. Asuma-sensei is very amused, though. I'm sitting down there with the other teachers, he says, gesturing to the section of crowd they just walked by. I saw you passing. Asuma-sensei, Choji says, redirecting the conversation to the point. We have something really important to tell you. Shikamaru nods. Danger to the village and other genin kind of important. Ino pumps her fist. Dangerous to Sasuke, sensei. We've been looking all over for you so we could talk. His cheer slips away. He's serious, now, in a way that Team 10 really hasn't seen him before. None of their missions went to the same level of craziness as Team 7's, and he pulls his cigarette out of his mouth. Is this something you should tell me privately? Team 10 glances at each other. Considers. Nods. All right, kids, this way, Asuma-sensei says, and he heads for the back. They follow. Check the description for the links to the author.